Hey guys, welcome to my legal classes. This is Ganesh Pujari, and before I say a single word about this video, I would like to thank all those people who shared their love for my first video on company law, that is Introduction to Company Law, where I shared a lot of Ramayana stories. And whenever I shared those stories, you guys enjoy it and I also enjoy at the same level. Now that's the fun of sharing our epic stories. And now that we are moving to the origin, meaning and definition of the word company. Now this video might go little long because this video will not just cover the origin, meaning and definition of the term company, but also set a strong base for nature, feature and characteristics of company. So that way this will help in two ways. This will be a clear session on origin, meaning and definition of the term company, and will set a base for nature, feature and characteristics of company. So that's why this might go little long, but I say it is worth investing time on this video. With that, I am taking you to the first slide. Let us start the discussion with origin and the meaning of the word company. I am dividing it into 5 major timelines. The timeline starts with 500 AD. It all started with old High German term Gallipo. Then comes the integral part of any of our discussion, that is Latin word. The late Latin word Campanio was the second in the series, and later in the year 1150 we got old French word compagnie. Finally, we have the word that we are using today, that is company, which is an English term. Year 1769, we got the famous abbreviation, that is CO. Now let's move towards meaning of those terms we got from different languages at different time. Starting from the old High German words, we are discussing about 3 different words here. The word Gallipo meant companion, whereas Gelaiba means messmate and Gelaibo means bread. In a nutshell, it's like having bread together, or it is about people who are having food together. They are the messmates who had bread together. That later became the exact meaning of the late Latin term companion, which meant the one eats bread with you. I hope you are seeing the connection. German word meant messmate and Latin word meant the one who eats bread with you. You are seeing the connection, right? Well, later we got 2 clear terms from Latin. They are com, which means together, and panis, which means bread. Look at my notes. There I have very clearly given the interpretation for these terms. What happens when you are having food with your family or friends? You will enjoy it, right? It's just like that. Here, the merchants or businessmen gather and have fun with stories and stuffs, and over lunch or dinner, etc., they discuss trade too. Remember, those days there were less documentation and more trust in each transaction. It was not like today's business module, which happens mostly on written contracts or after completing the statutory obligations. The next word sounds more of emotional word for me, which came from Old French during 1150 AD. The French term compagnie was used to mean society, friendship, intimacy, etc. Look at that last part. It was used to refer body of soldiers. What does it mean when we say body of soldiers? It means a strong, trustworthy connect between individuals, right? Okay, let's now move on to the English word company. Company was more sophisticated word, but remember, it was not a direct usage as today's company. The word earlier used for companies like dance company, music company, drama company or a circus company, etc. Later we started using it as an association of like-minded persons formed for the purpose of carrying some business. Further, in 1303 it was used for trade guilds, and 1553 the term used to mean business association. Finally, in the year 1769 we got the abbreviation for the word company, that is CO. Now let's move on to few very important definitions in my next slide. In this slide, we are discussing few definitions. If you can by heart all of them, this slide is sufficient for you to answer any questions on meaning, definition, nature, features, characteristics, etc. of company. That's the beauty of this slide. You might feel that I have given more than required, but believe me, this slide is worth to spend some time. Let's start with Lord Justice Lindley's definition. He says, and I quote, "A company is an association of many persons who contribute money or money's worth to a common stock and employed in some trade or business and who share the profit and loss arising therefrom. The common stock so contributed is denoted in money and is the capital of the company. The persons who contribute to it or to whom it pertains are members. The proportion of capital to which each member is entitled is his share. The shares are always transferable, although the right to transfer is often more or less restricted." I am very happy to read this definition because of the English that Lord Justice Lindley has used. His definition is in a very simple English that you and me use during our routine life. It's not high funda English or some rocket science to understand. However, let's break the definition in different pieces to make ourselves clearer on the same. In the very beginning, he says, company is association of many persons. Later he says that they are the members of the company. One thing is very clear, that a company will have multiple people. Of course, we do have OPC or one person company, but majority falls into association of multiple people. You should know that private company and public companies will have two or more people, and Act defines both minimum and upper limit time to time. What are these people doing? They are contributing money or money's worth. Understand this as a capital investment, and such investment allows the members of the company to have equivalent worth of shares. Such shares are mostly transferable. Now, what is this investment for? This is to do trade or business. And why are they doing all this? This is to either share the profit or to bear the losses. This one definition covers a lot. Coming to the second definition, Professor Hannes says, and I quote, "A company is an artificial person created by law having separate entity with a perpetual succession and common seal." This definition straight away covers 5 features of the company. They are, firstly, company is an artificial person. Company is a creation of law. You cannot touch or feel a company, but it does exist in the eyes of law. Likewise, company cannot touch, feel, sense, taste, hear like a human does, but it does exist in the eyes of law. That's why it can sue or can be sued. I hope that's clear. Secondly, companies are created by law. Just to add here, always remember that companies can be formed or dissolved only under the Companies Act and nothing else. I hope I have made it clear on the ability to sue and get sued, which makes it clear that it is created by law and exists in the eyes of law. Thirdly, company is a separate legal entity. Remember, company is separate from its members and members are separate from the company. However, there can be connections made in some situations which we will study later under the title of lifting of corporate veil. Fourthly, companies have perpetual succession. Death of members will not end the life of a company is what we should know. And fifth and final point is that he has made very clear that companies will have common seal. Professor Hannes says all the transactions of the companies are made under this seal. You must by heart this definition, as this is an easy definition and one of the best definition which you can use as a strong base for many questions. The third definition is from Chief Justice Marshall, who says, and I quote, "A corporation is an artificial being, invisible, intangible, existing only in contemplation of the law. Being a mere creation of law, it possesses only the properties which the charter of its creation confers upon it, either expressly or as incidental to its very existence." I think not much explanation required, as we have already discussed about artificial person, invisibility, which means you can't see company, or intangible, which means one can't touch any company, the existence of the company in the eyes of law, creation by law, etc. The last definition before I approach the legal definition from company law is from Justice Salmond. The definition says, and I quote, "Company is an artificial person with entity separate from its members, having perpetual succession and common seal with transferability of shares." I don't think I need to explain any single term, as we have discussed all the terms used in this definition. If you observe closely, again there are 5 features of company, like company is an artificial person, it is a separate legal entity, has perpetual succession, works under a common seal, and shares are transferable. Finally, we have definition from Companies Act. I have told multiple times in my live videos that I am not a full-time teacher but a researcher. After reading the definition under Companies Act 2013, I went back to Companies Act 1956 and then to 1942 and then to 1930 and then to 1882 and then to 1866. So much so that I tried finding a definition from the base law from which Indian Companies Act derived, that is UK's Company Law 1862, to find the definition. Surprisingly, there are no definitions other than saying that a company formed and registered under this act, or an existing company, or a company means a company incorporated under this act or under any previous company law. I have given definitions from 1956 Act and 2013 Act. Under 2013 Act, company is defined under clause 20 of section 2. One more thing, never use subsection for the definition section. They are called clauses as they all deal with an independent term and they are not connected to each other. That's why we should always read it as section 2 clause 20. As there are no definition given for company, I have given you how an insurance company is defined under Companies Act 1866. You need not to by heart that, I have given it just as a reference point. In the next slide, I have given definition from 1956 Act for your reference. Let me quickly show that before we move on to the concluding slide along with case law. In this slide, we have company definition from 1956 Act, which basically says that company means a company formed and registered under this act, or an existing company under Companies Act 1942, 1913, 1882 and 1866. Let's move to the last slide to read the liberal definition from US and the rigid definition from UK, and finally a case law. As I said, the US definition is quite liberal, which calls corporation, partnership, association, joint stock company, trust fund, or organized groups of persons, whether incorporated or not, and in official capacity any receiver, trustee in bankruptcy, or similar official or liquidating agent. For any of the foregoing, all of them are considered as company. Whereas UK definition is quite structured and limited to body corporate or an incorporated business organization registered under the Companies Act. And remember, Indian laws are either directly from UK or inspired by them, and that's why you see a lot of similarities there between Indian Companies Act definition and UK definition. The last part of this discussion is a case law, and we are referring G.V. Pratap Reddy versus KVVSN Associates. What happened in this case law? State of Telangana issued a notice inviting tender. Notice inviting tender is also known as NIT, and in that NIT, they very clearly mention that the bidder who want to bid for such tender requires to be an individual or a company. A firm tried to bid and the state rejected the same and firm went to court. The Supreme Court of India held that the NIT has very clearly mentioned individual or company, and a firm is neither an individual nor a company, and hence the firm is not eligible to bid. I have given para 12 and 13 of the judgment, and if you see in para 12, it has very clearly mentioned that on reading of the terms of the notice inviting tender, it is clear that the word company can only mean a company as understood under the Companies Act and cannot be read to include a firm. I hope that clarifies everything. I am sorry if the session was long, but tried my best to give concept clarity, and now it's time for me to hand over the presentation to Nishan. With that, I am signing off and will see you with another video. Till then, you guys take care.
That was too many definitions. I'm sure you're trying to skip something. Don't do that. If you do that, I will inform my father. With that, I'm concluding this session. Please subscribe our channel. Please like, share and comment our videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.